Hello, hello. Okay, we'll start our program now. So please tell me the output. 大家可以说解吗？OK。
C'est le zoom de la série. Yeah, step out.
And the New Year celebration.
And oh. And yeah. I'll give it a try. Okay. Right. So you have to use your finger to flip it, pen down. Right. Now, I'm delighted to be here, and I'd really like to thank Sunny. He was the person who delivered the certificate, but that wasn't the significant part. He was the one that put in all the work required in order to document and develop the case. And if it wasn't for all the, he initiated this idea. It was my idea, it was his idea. He initiated, he did all the work, and he made it happen. So, Sunny, thank you so much. Some of you have heard me talk about this before, and my apologies for that, for those of you for which there'll be a repetition. But I think these are ideas that are sort of the big picture, some of the big picture things that we in the world, we in the United States, you in China, need to be dealing with for energy policy. I've often talked about the energy policy triangle. Basic point there is that in order to deal with effective energy policy, you have to be thinking about the economy, the environment, and security at the same time. Now, I'm going to talk about the environment, decarbonizing the economy, and I think that is the fundamental global challenge for everybody alive now to be working on. It's an environmental issue. But as we go forward, if we don't pay attention to the economics of it, it's not going to happen. And if we develop energy systems that don't give us the security that we need and the reliability we need, it's also not going to happen. So in order to deal with the environmental issues, we have to always keep in track the energy, the security and the economic issues. Now, in thinking about how one addresses global climate change, I'm going to focus mostly on the energy area. And there's two dimensions or spaces that we want to think about. One is, what are the physical changes that have to happen? And unless these physical changes occur, we're not going to get deal with the global climate change. And then there is the policy space. That is, what are the policies that cause human beings to change their minds? What is this psychological motivations? What is the economic motivations? What is the government policies required? What are the interventions in order to change a massive system from what it is now to what it needs to be in the future? First, I want to talk about the physical space in the energy area. I find it useful to think about there really is 4 areas to consider. I think of those as 4 pathways. Energy efficiency, that's using less energy to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish anyway. Second, end-use substitution. In end uses of energy, substituting cleaner forms of energy for dirtier forms of energy. Think of electric vehicles as that example. But for that to work, we have to be able to produce the energy in low carbon ways. So that would be low carbon energy production. We may think of solar. You'll see a few other examples that we're talking about. But at the end of the time, we're going to still be using fossil fuels, I believe. Particularly if we have baseload power, we may want to have some fossil fuels for a baseload power generation and for many of the industrial users. So what do we do with the carbon that's released there? How do we capture it? How do we sequester it? Those are really the big four of the things we want to focus on. I want to talk very briefly about those. Energy efficiency. We're all familiar with the light bulbs, the light emitting diodes, and if anybody still has an incandescent bulb in their house, get rid of it this afternoon and replace it with an LED light bulb. You'll be happy that you did it. But we don't even have to turn off the lights ourselves, because right now in most commercial establishments, many homes, there are motion sensing light switches that will turn off when the lights are needed. Better insulation, high efficiency furnaces. But that's not the entirety. We have big systems of energy efficiency. Many of you in the room here have seen Stanford's integrated campus-wide heating and cooling system. That's basically an energy efficiency play, even though people talk about it as the energy system. It's an energy efficiency play because Stanford has a district heating and cooling system that takes hot water and cold water from a central system and pumps it through the buildings for heating and cooling, and then has a central station, a microgrid that distributes the electricity. So in this, the water is chilled electrically with the electricity used at times when there's a lot of clean energy available. Electric, other boilers as well. And because you need that hot water, cold water all during the day, you have to store it. Well, storing hot water and cold water in big tanks is really cheaper than storing electricity. So the type of energy storage that you use here, instead of expensive batteries, is cheap tanks to hold water that allows you to take electricity from just a time of day where you have a lot of excess electricity and use the energy when you need it. There's a heat recovery system in buildings, so you more efficiently use the buildings when you transfer energy. And then there's a substation in the end. So this is suggests that energy efficiency isn't just devices, individual devices. It's big systems. It can be big industrial commercial systems that are important. End-use energy switching. To think about that, we'll go back to a graph that Xiaopeng showed before. What are the ways that we release carbon dioxide in the atmosphere? And what are the generation? I think for electric generation, almost 30% is transportation. Industry, 23%. Agriculture is pretty significant, and it would just pay attention to that. Commercial, residential are the other two big ones. It's quite different in the same graph for China. This is electricity generation. So for China, there's much more an issue in the United States of changing the electricity system than it is in the United States. And industrial is also bigger, so that in China, the essential character of the problem is the same. The magnitudes are quite different, not only in scale, but in the sectors in which you want to focus. So turning back to the United States, end use, we have end use fuel switching. Think about, we have electric cars, electric trucks, hydrogen fuel cells, vehicles. Those are important elements of the end use energy switching. Oh, whoops. Something happened.
It's stuck.
Yeah, but something else popped up, a picture here. Oh, wait a minute. That took care of it. I fixed it. Electric trains, and even experimentally, we have electric airplanes. Now you think about this as nice place where people can be. No, ain't so. That's actually battery packs. So right now, this is not very practical, but it will be. First time we had an airplane with the Wright brothers flying, it wasn't very practical either. So we're getting a lot of end use switching to electricity or to hydrogen. In the commercial and residential sector, we have heat pumps for heating. We have inductive cooking. So in the residential sector, for almost always we use fossil fuels. There's technology that can substitute at the end use, bringing in electricity. The point is, how do we get those implemented? How do we get people to start using those? Agriculture, this is an electric tractor. We can start beginning to transfer to an end use of electricity in agriculture. The biggest challenge is still industry. We have electric arc furnaces for steel making, but for most of the industrial processes, we haven't found yet good economical ways to transfer to use electricity in place of the direct use of fossil fuels. So those are technological challenges, but you see in every major sector, things are happening, and they will continue. So those are end use. Then you've got to have, then we have to, if you switch to electricity and electricity is generated by coal, you don't have much progress. You have a little bit, but very little progress that way. So we've got to be generating electricity and other things through clean energy. And that's what this organization is focused more of its attention on, electricity generation for wind and solar, rooftop. The economics really aren't very good for rooftop solar. The economics for grid scale electricity is much better, much more effective. But geothermal, large dams, nuclear power, but we'll still need some liquids. And so switchgrass and other biofuels are going to be important, and there's renewable hydrogen. So again, in producing electricity cleanly, we've got technologies there in order to produce all of the elements, but there is still the problems to be overcome. The economics and the security issues, intermittent resources that provide electricity only when the sun shines or the wind blows, don't give you the security that you need without being augmented by expensive storage capabilities. But then at the end, we're still going to need some fossil fuels. So we're going to need carbon capture and storage, both pulling it out of the atmosphere and at the point of generation. So taking these physical concepts, well, I, as an economist, would like to be able to quantify those. How much of a contribution are we getting from the various things? And there's a framework I like to use. It's called the Kaya identity. Decompose carbon dioxide emissions. This is for the energy sector, we can do it, into 3 factors that are multiplied by one another. This is a mathematical identity. It's true for all numbers, as you can see, by some things will cancel out on the right-hand side, leave just carbon dioxide. But there are 3 factors useful for analysis and thinking and for the data collection. Economic growth and development, GDP is the measure of economic activity. The energy use per unit of GDP, that's how intensely we use energy to accomplish the things we want in the economy. CO2 per unit of energy, the carbon intensity of the energy system, how clean it is. And those 3 things multiplied together get carbon dioxide emissions. If you differentiate that equation, really a logarithmic differentiation of it to get rates of change, you'll see the rates of change of carbon dioxide emissions will be the sum of the rates of the change of those 3 factors. And it's just some basic mathematics there. So if you think of the linkage between those physical things happening in the mathematical expression, we have energy efficiency reduces the amount of energy use, energy use per unit of GDP. Notice GDP, I'm not going to suggest anything that reduces GDP because I know of no nation in the world who's get up and said, we want to stop our economy from growing to deal with carbon dioxide. China and the United States have not made the commitment. They made commitments of intensity, essentially. And nobody should be asking economies to stop their nations to stop their economic growth. So that's usually not on the table as a policy issue. But energy efficiency, you think of impacting on this term, energy use per unit of GDP, and use substitution. That's going to cleaner forms of energy. So that changes the carbon dioxide per unit of energy use. But it may also have an impact on the efficiency at the end because of electricity in many forms. There's a very efficient way of harnessing energy. Clean energy production, carbon dioxide per unit of energy, carbon capture and storage also impacts on that. So we have a nice mathematical framework for beginning to quantify both what we've done historically and maybe make guesses about the future. Note that some of these changes aren't economically efficient. Some of them aren't equitable. Some don't lead to climate justice. Those also are policy issues that I won't have time to talk about here. So if you look at the trends in US and China of carbon reduction, we can use those same factors. I want to go back to the United States and just show you how to read this graph. The axis is the average rate of change over a time interval. This was the 13 years before the energy crisis in 1973. We had energy intensity of the economy declining 0.25% a year. The carbon intensity of energy use was declining 0.25% a year. So those add together to say that the carbon intensity of the economy was declining by 0.5%. The economy was growing by 4.5% a year, or 4.25% a year, and therefore carbon dioxide emissions were growing on the average 3.75% a year. So these just as simply, this allows us the mathematical expression that allows us to add up rates of growth are useful. So what's happened after that time? Once the United States saw energy was a real problem, energy intensity of the economy has been declining by in the order from 1.5% to 2% per year on the average every year since all the years since 1973. So the accumulation of 2% a year over 50 years makes a very large difference. The carbon intensity of energy, well, up until recently, it hasn't cleaned up very much. Energy's been just as dirty over most of that time, a little cleaning up. With the energy efficiency and a little bit of cleaning up the energy system, we've had the economy being able to grow sometimes 1.5%, sometimes 3.5% per year, and having relatively little growth of carbon dioxide emissions, but there was growth. Different for different time periods. And notice I have done this by presidential administrations to show that there wasn't any heroes in terms of the presidential administration in fixing this. I want to bring attention to what's happened under the Obama administration and under the Trump administration. Is that finally the energy system is cleaning itself up. Finally, we're getting a cleaner energy system. And I want you all to be thinking why that's happened in the United States. But the combination of energy efficiency and cleaning it up of the energy system with very relatively slow economic growth means that carbon dioxide emissions has been declining actually more rapidly under the Trump administration than any other administration, even though Donald Trump was opposed to any of this reduction. He was opposed to energy efficiency, and he was pretty opposed to wind and solar and the clean forms of energy, and he wanted to protect coal. But that actually is the administration that is in which there is the most cleaning up. And the question is why? It's because most of this action has now become the private sector. It's what individuals and companies do rather than what the governments do. The governments can set policy, they set the direction, but the biggest effect has been what the private sector has been doing. Might want to compare that in China. China, the numbers are much bigger. If we go back, I don't have data going back as far, 1990 to 1995, we got 12% economic growth. Carbon dioxide increase, we've had 7% energy decline per year of energy intensity, because in those years where China was beginning to industrialize and become more efficient as an overall economy, not only was it producing more, it's finding better ways of doing it more efficient ways. Over the time period, what we've seen is, on the average, there's been no cleaning up of the energy system in China during that whole time. The fact that for the last 15 years, carbon dioxide emission has been much lower than the economic growth rate is primarily because there's going to be energy efficiency in the economy. So if you look at the China economy, energy efficiency or changing the intensity of energy use in the economy has been the dominant way the carbon dioxide growth in China has been kept much more in control, even though the economy has been growing very rapidly. By the way, if you put the US economy on the, okay, this meeting be recorded, yes, okay. If you use that scale for the China, for the US economy, you notice in the same time periods, everything's much smaller. The rates of change in China, as everybody knows here, for everything has been much faster than the United States, but the same sort of picture emerges with the big differences in the last few years. The US energy system is getting cleaner, the Chinese energy system, for the most part, isn't. So the question is, why is the US energy system getting cleaner? This graph going from year 2005 into 2020 shows the factors is basically that we have had natural gas pushing out coal. We've moved from one fossil fuel, coal, to a cleaner fossil fuel. Some of it has been wind growth. Smaller amount has been solar growth. But the biggest way we've been cleaning up the system in the United States is changing the fossil fuel use. Now, I am hoping that in the future, we will be able to say the dominant way that we've cleaned up the system is the renewables that are growing, biomass, wind and solar. And I'd like to believe that energy efficiency is a linear process of reduction, and these clean fuels are an exponential process that starts growing slowly but then speeds up over time. That's what people have to accomplish. That's the technology and the policies that people have to implement in order to get that to accomplish. So the last thing I'd like to talk about, what are the policies? Well, to get to those choices, it is not one policy. I know a lot of my economist friends who say you just need a good carbon tax. Yeah, I think we should have a carbon tax. But that is not the only policy. We need policies in every one of those sectors that I've talked about. Okay, did I run out of time? Okay. Should I stop or wait? I'll wait a moment until you get new batteries in it. See, as I said, it's not just efficiency, it's security of supply that matters. So an intermittent supply of energy is something you don't want to happen. They said the intermittent supply of energy is not something you want to happen. Security of supply is important, even when you're talking in seminars here. For those who are in a distance, the batteries have run out in this. So if you look at, I have just some of the various policies that can be implemented, some of which are implemented, have been implemented, and indicated which ones would make a difference in the various sectors. I believe we need a carbon tax, but I believe we cannot stop in the US or China or any place in the world with just a carbon tax. Because there's too many working parts in all of the economies, too many market failures to be able to solve things with just market tax. We need pricing strategies. I believe now's time for subsidies for wind, solar, biomass. R&D, really serious attention to research and development is absolutely important. Fuel efficiency standards, such as we have in automobiles and applied, important direct actions of the federal government, and a group of behavioral interventions. I talked with some of the students here who are in psychology department. studying psychology. That's it's issues of the social sciences as well as economics that are going to be important for the behavioral interventions that are causing people and companies to move towards a lot of these changes. I'd like to just bring one thing, a different thought, and that's in pricing on electricity. Right now, as all of you know, that retail pricing, is this working okay? Is it still working? Okay, retail pricing of electricity has a significant component of variable costs, the price of the electricity, and a lot of fixed cost recovery, cost of the infrastructure. And around our area in California, half of what we're paying is a fixed cost recovery, half is a variable cost. So for economic efficiency, you may think about pricing should be at variable cost. And so price of electricity may be viewed as too high. But because there's a lot of externalities associated with the carbon dioxide released from electricity, many people in the environmental community have said, hey, let's keep the price very high. And that is good for energy efficiency, but it's terrible for end-use fuel efficient switching. And in the past, the dominant issue was energy efficiency. I believe in the future, the dominant issue on the demand side is not going to be energy efficiency as much as fuel switching to electric vehicles, to all electric homes. Okay. I'll pause a moment here until we.
Actually, the voice is good.
Yeah,
without a
can
microphone.
they hear it on?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm talking about. So I think that the dominant issue we should be studying, dominant issue that we should be paying attention to in electricity retail pricing is what's the trade-off between the incentives we have for energy efficiency and fuel switching to energy. In China now, for example, the energy is dirty enough that you want the incentive towards energy efficiency. So you probably want to you want the price of electricity to discourage people from using too much. But I think in the US, we're moving to a point where the more important thing is fuels and use switching to vehicles, electric vehicles, electric homes, electrification of industry, so that we probably would like lower prices of retail prices of energy, because that may be the dominant way of moving forward. I say that as a speculation because I'm not sure that's the right answer. But what I hope is people who care, as I do, about global climate change, keep thinking in both spaces. What's the physical space of things that we have to be changing? And then do some measurement about what's working, what's making a difference over time, such as those graphs that I showed you. And then, but think about the policy space, what it needs to cause companies and individuals to make the necessary changes. What is the behavioral interventions? What are the policy interventions? What's the tax interventions? What is the technology motivations that we need to do in order to get them going? And so my hope for all of you is that you continue to think in both of those spaces as you move forward to deal with climate change. And I know I've taken more than my time, so Sheshe, thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Jim Sweeney. This is an excellent presentation. Okay, our next speaker will Dr. Ji Hongchen from China Energy. NICE, American Research Institute. So China Energy is the biggest generation company in China. You know, the state grid, southern grid. So generation, we have 5 biggest companies. China Energy is one of this. So welcome to Dr. Ji Hongchen. You know, he from 2016, you know, come to the US, organize this new research institute in the United States Bay Area. And Dr. Chen had PhD in material science, University of California at Davis. Okay, welcome, Dr. Chen.
Thank you for inviting me to this forum. And also list us as a co-host. So let me add a note here. We just moved into this building last month. So now we stay with the secret. So also I want to thank for everybody is coming here. It feels really good to meet everybody in person. We have been forced working from home for so long. It's really good to see everybody during this holiday season. Today, I would like to give a presentation on hydrogen, advanced liquid hydrogen refueling station technology. I saw Professor Jim Sweeney mention the green hydrogen, right? So today I want to go a little bit deep, explain the whole hydrogen value chain and what we are doing here. So again, I'm from China Energy, an energy company in China, and we are NICE America as a CS3 third-tier subsidiary. I'd like to start with China Energy, a brief introduction. China Energy was formed actually very late in 2017. It was a merge between Shenhua Group and Guodian Group. Now it's the world's largest power generation company, a total of 240 gigawatts with 190 gigawatts from coal power, and 40 gigawatts from wind power, and 10 gigawatts from hydro. We're also expanding the business into solar power as well. In addition to that, you can see we produce 500 million tons of coal each year, and 15 million tons of co-chemicals like methanol, olefins, basic chemicals. And in China, we produce 15%, provide 15% of the product to the country. And relevant to today's topic, hydrogen, right? China Energy produces 20%, about 4 million tons of hydrogen each year. But this hydrogen is mainly used for chemical intermediate. We haven't used that at the field yet. So overall, China Energy is big. It ranks 101 in global Fortune 500. And obviously, comparing to the building owner State Grid, we're still small. I believe State Grid ranks number 2, right? So in 2018, China Energy was a founding member of the so-called China National Alliance of Hydrogen Energy and Fuels. NICE stands for National Institute of Clean and Low Carbon Energy. It's headquartered in Beijing. It has a subsidiary in Silicon Valley starting from 2016, and also it has a subsidiary in Germany starting from 2017. So our goal is to establish a world-class industry and the organization under the leadership of our parent company, China Energy. So Beijing headquarters, they are doing more stuff than us. They have a total of 6 focus areas. As you can see, they're doing clean coal, converting, catalysis, Co2 chemicals catalysis, hydrogen and applications, coal-based materials like polymers, and industry water treatment, and also the distributed energy and smart energy. At NICE America, Mountain View, we were in Mountain View for about 5 years. We focused on these 4 areas: hydrogen value chain, energy systems, solutions, material and chemistry, and digital optimization. So my two colleagues, Dr. Huiwan and Aiwa, so they are from this materials and chemistry group. So we talk about hydrogen. So first of all, I would say, hey, why want hydrogen? Why hydrogen is important in China as well as in the rest of the world? Right? So this is two charts I grabbed from the latest IEA report. So we know China has pledged to reach carbon peaking by 2030 and the carbon neutrality by 2060. And as of today, China each year carbon emissions, CO2 emissions, about 11 gigatons. And it will go 4 gigatons more in the next 10 years. So there are many ways to handle this carbon reduction, as the professor suggested. We can improve the energy efficiency. We can do carbon capture and storage, and we can use renewables. This hydrogen, you can see the bar is not that big. It's about 8% of contribution, which is equivalent to 1 to 2 gigatons carbon reduction equivalent by 2060. 8% is still quite significant. And when we look at the industry sectors, buildings, transportation, and industry use, so hydrogen has the largest, the highest impact on the transportation business. So today I would like to focus on this transportation business, hydrogen for transportation. So probably everybody knows a little bit about the hydrogen. You can see we have the Toyota Mirai, and lately we have the Honda Clarity passenger cars running in California. Nowadays in California, there are more than 40 fueling stations across North California, Northern California, Southern California, and I believe in Oakland area and the UC Berkeley area, we have AC Transit. They have the hydrogen buses running there. So by 2030, California, this one state in US itself, there will be a projection, like 1 million fuel cell vehicles and 200 fueling stations. But in China is late in catching this up, but they're catching up very quickly. The plan is to have 1 million fuel cell vehicles, mainly buses and the trucks, and have 1,000 fueling stations. But I think the number could be larger. Sinopec itself, they have announced a few months ago, in next 5 years, Sinopec itself is to build over 1,000 fueling stations. When we talk about this zero emission transportation, hydrogen fuel cell is one option, but this so-called BEV, battery electric vehicle, actually comes into the market earlier. People often ask or question, say, hey, since we have the battery electric vehicle, why we should do this hydrogen fuel cell vehicle? And one typical example is Elon Musk, the owner of Tesla. He often said, he publicly criticized, hey, why do we need hydrogen? But in fact, both the US federal government and California state government, they have committed $1 billion into hydrogen infrastructure and technology development. So here's our company's view when we compare the BEV versus the hydrogen electric vehicles. So batteries are good. Battery EVs, they are good for the short range and for the light duty. Not this, they cannot run that far because it's heavy. And we look at the right chart. So battery electric vehicles start with low investment in infrastructure because you can use the existing power grid to charge your car. But when the fleet size goes up at some point, when the current grid cannot handle the capacity need, the industry has to invest more money into the substations, the transmission lines. That's why there will be a hike. And in comparison, hydrogen fuel cell vehicle infrastructure is started with really high cost since there is virtually no infrastructure existing at this moment. So you have to invest a lot. But when the scale goes up, the size expands, the average cost actually goes down. So we have an analogy, you can see that. Just like the gasoline and the diesel, people debated quite a bit, but they coexist for a long time, over 100 years. So the battery is the new gasoline, the hydrogen will be the new diesel. They will go hand by hand for a long time. It will not be one or the other. So when we look at the chart again, the range and the profile for certain applications, if you want to go really a low carbon emission transportation, we're talking about high-speed trains, the planes, airplanes, and the cargo ships, right? So only hydrogen fuel cell can power that vehicle. The battery, no way you can do that. I think Elon Musk shared his battery-powered airplane, which can only fly for 100 miles. And KPMG had some market analysis and prediction by in next 20 years. So in the market, there will be a mixture of hybrid vehicles and battery EVs and fuel cell EVs and the traditional internal combustion engine EVs. The hydrogen advantage, so they lay in long range, higher power, short fuel time, and the higher payload. So probably, I don't know how many of you have the battery EVs, the Tesla, the charging always takes very long, right? But for the hydrogen, you can just as your gasoline filling, 5 minutes, 10 minutes at the most. China Energy does have a holistic hydrogen strategy. So they're really good in hydrogen production, as I mentioned. We have the largest hydrogen production here in China. So now they want to expand the business into the midstream transportation and fueling, and fueling. For the fuel cell vehicle, like the bus or heavy duty truck development, our company plans to collaborate with other players. So I want to talk a little bit about the current refueling stations. You can feel the hydrogen as a molecule. It's a gas molecule. It's the lightest element on Earth, and usually it's gas. Right? Why we would go with liquid hydrogen? I think the reason is the liquid hydrogen has much higher density than the gas. So when we choose between gas hydrogen filling station versus the liquid hydrogen station, we always think about the cost. And you can see the cost when we break down the cost. There are three main components. One is the hydrogen production. Is it from the methane, natural gas reforming, or from co-gasification, or from water electrolysis? Hydrogen production, and the transportation, and then the refueling. So for liquid, we have to do the one step. It's called liquefaction. When you put gas, you have to cool it down, compress it into this liquid. It will add additional cost, like $1 per kg. But it will save more for transportation and refueling. As a result, for the gas hydrogen at the pump price now in Mountain View it's $14, but the target is $8 per kg per kilogram. And for liquid hydrogen, our target is $4.50. That would be 40% savings. Current hydrogen fueling technology has a few limits or the challenges. So that's why we want to work our own technology. So let me describe this. And nowadays, a typical good with a high capacity filling station, it can only supply 500 kilograms per day. Usually, typically it's between 200 and 500 kilograms per day. And performance-wise, the startup time usually it's long. It takes about 20 minutes, 30 minutes to start up. And the back-to-back fuels means can you fuel the hydrogen cars without any stop? But in reality, nowadays all the technology on the market, you can only fill like 2 or 3, then you have to wait for 5 minutes for the air, for the hydrogen compressor to repressurize. Reliability. So the current pump technology, after a few hundred hours used, you have to replace some key parts. So even though it's a scheduled maintenance, but it's going to cost you time and money. And from the cost point of view, capital is high, and the boil off from the tank is also high. Consumption is high. Footprint is high. So nowadays, all the gasoline or diesel stations, they have underground storage. But for hydrogen, no, you have to have a separate, really large footprint to store the hydrogen gas. So to address all this challenge, we have worked in the last 4 years. These 4 main new pillar technology. Can see, first of all, we want to put the pump. We have a pump to put into the tank instead of to put it outside of the tank, so called submerged pump. Second, we have developed a socket to isolate the pump from the tank. The third one is the liquid hydrogen is very cold, 20 Kelvin. It's minus 253 degrees. So that cold energy can be used, can be recycled to cool the hydrogen gas so that we can eliminate the chiller. The number 4 is now we have a patent on this station with underground tank new in the hydrogen industry. So let's take a look at the whole schematic. Right? So by using our new technology, we can remove the gas compressor. We can remove the cascade tubing for storage and also the chiller refrigeration unit. CapEx is lower, and also the OpEx is lower as well. For the current 500 kilogram per day, the target is $8 per kg, and for our pounds per day filling station, our target is 4.5. So this is another view to look at that. By comparing the existing ones, our system is much simpler. Actually, it's everything, all the major, all the units, all the components can be built 53 feet long, the trailer. The same size as the 18 trailer. So everything can on a trailer. And we can see from here, so the far right, so that's our prototype. So where we are now, I would say our technology development down, and we're doing the commercial demo, and the second demo is going on at the Sunline, which is in Palm Springs, California. And early this year, we finished the commercial demo in Ohio. The Solar Transit was very successful. You can see we finished a world best 52 back-to-back without any delay, 52 buses refilling in almost half day, 12 hours. So the local newspaper, radios, there's media, so they came to interview us. They were really excited. During this 4.5 months, we have new visits by the international lead hydrogen area companies. Technology performance, as you can read, the pump rate is 240 kilograms per hour. Remember, most of the existing stations, their daily capacity is 200, which means our pump can just deliver the same amount just in 1 hour. And the capex is lower, at least 30%. So the boil off is at least 50% lower. Energy use is 90% lower, 10% of the existing technology. And the maintenance cost is reduced by 75%. So now we have a safe, efficient, and high capacity station technology, which is ready to be deployed in the US market, but not in the Chinese market yet. So I will mention it later. And meanwhile, we're working on this underground storage. So as I said, nowadays you have to put hydrogen somewhere. Remember, it's 100 feet away. It has to be above the ground. We're working on this underground design, and hopefully next few years we have this underground filling station for hydrogen. So far, we have described the hydrogen station technology comparing to the market, to the existing one in the market. But whether we have really have a new business, a much larger business, our answer is yes, which can, endorsed by this, called unprecedented pace of new hydrogen, liquid hydrogen plants. When it's liquid hydrogen, mainly it was used for military, for aerospace for a long time. Even as of today, the total world daily production is about 500 tons, and 350 tons is used in US. Used in US. And in the history, it has been approximately roughly every 5 years, there will be a new liquid hydrogen plant built. But in the last 2.5 years, you can see, just listed a few, both in US and in Asia, like China, Japan, Korea, and also Australia. There are many new liquid hydrogen plants that have been planned to be built. So we feel the direction of the liquid hydrogen is right. If we really want to use the hydrogen at scale. The hydrogen fuel cell vehicles is now at the inflection point to take off. Would be my last slide. So we want to start with our US market. There are a few sub markets like the forklift. So the total market cap is at least 50 million to $100 million. And for the bus filling market, it's about 1 billion per year by 2025. And for the heavy duty truck, it will be much larger, probably $10 billion per year market. So in China, the liquid hydrogen, yes, so overall hydrogen is not allowed for civil use yet, even though there are so many pilot programs there. But that will change very soon. So that's our belief. And in other regions, Japan has overall their government has a very ambitious plan to the hydrogen. Same thing for South Korea, Europe, and Australia. Probably you heard about Australia is building so many hydrogen plants for Japan. They have liquid hydrogen ships to export the hydrogen to Japan. And from the long term, in addition to this vehicles, right? I believe there are some companies they're developing the fuel cell powered trains, the airplanes, and the cargo ships. As a next step, so here my last bullet is our business plan. So Nice Maverick as a research incubator, not to do really the manufacturing and the sales. They like to spin off. They like to work with our investors, partners to put this technology to the market. We're looking for two things. One is this supply chain and this filling station, the equipment production. We want to spin off a new product. So working on that, we welcome more investment on this. Another thing is the value chain. So I want to emphasize a little bit. Any industry, if you can do a vertical integration, that would be better. So for the hydrogen production in US and in the whole world, it is controlled by a few international industry gas companies. So it's very hard to lower down the overall cost. But if you can do an integration from the upstream, from hydrogen production, liquefaction, and from transportation and refueling, and even with this fuel cell vehicle manufacturers and fleet operators, I think overall we can lower down the cost. So that's my presentation, and here's my contact information. and again, I'm working at Nice America. Here my email, my phone number, and also have a simple website as well. Thank you.
For Dr. This excellent information. This is the future energy for the next 10, 20 years. So we have more interesting story, regarding the future hydrogen development, and you already has product in the market, right? Okay, so our next speaker will be Dr. Jeff Chapman. So we talk about energy policy, energy economics by Stanford Professor Jim Sweeney, and also talk the market product and clean energy, hydrogen. So we will talk about electricity market. So Dr. Jeffman is the founder and the CEO of the Dimensions. So his current business provides the software for the energy trading, and before that, he used to be the senior director of the APX and the ABB. So I remember about 20 years ago, we started in the US energy market software development. So we did the California ISO, New York ISO, New England ISO, ERCOT ISO, all this market. So welcome, Jeff Chapman. And Jeff has a PhD in the electrical engineering, MIT.
This is not a touch screen, even though I'm poking at it desperately. We're going to talk about some market development, primarily in Latin America, which people refer to as LATAM. And this happens to be an area of our experience because we're doing some markets and market updates in Colombia. But I think it's relevant in a lot of ways to a lot of the things that are happening elsewhere, where you have development of renewable resources that require more sophisticated markets to support the development. And that has certainly happened here in the US. So if I can get this thing to, oh, mousy, look at that. Yeah, I got you. Okay, I'm sorry. So just to introduce us, I think Telfon did a pretty good job. So our primary focus these days is large energy settlement system for large utilities and for market operators. So the one we're talking about today is, they call them XM or XM if you're in Colombia. This has been an ongoing engagement of ours that we expect to continue as the market develops. So what we'll do is, first off, we'll look at some stuff in the US and how the development, particularly here in California, drove some very new and innovative markets and the problems that were there to be solved and what the benefits were. And then we'll go into Colombia and LATAM and look at what is happening there in terms of how markets are changing and how renewable resources are coming along. Some of the reason why this is relevant is because Colombia, they're probably around 15,000 megawatts peak these days. So they're a moderate sized company. They're not a country in terms of their energy utilization, but there are a lot of these countries now of that size, give or take, that are starting to become interested in putting markets down and in sort of complementing their development in green energy technology with market technology. So if we look at California, what we have here is a map of the imbalance energy or energy imbalance market. And what you see here is what used to be California ISO. And that was an energy market, and that's a fully developed market. What you see in all these little blotches are sort of all the population centers in the Western United States that have come into the market. They call the energy imbalance market, that allow renewable energy to flow across the entire Western energy. So that kind of motivates what we're doing. So what happened was we had all this build out of solar and wind, and we had areas surrounding California that were linked with transmission, but that were had structural blockades to trading renewable energy, because renewable energy is sort of variable in its nature, and we didn't have a big build out of storage or anything else. So one way to manage that is to increase the geographical footprint over which you can move energy. So we had to find a way to leverage the potential of the Western Interconnect so that everybody could be producing renewable energy, and that it could be a cooperative situation where we could move energy on the transmission grid in ways that were beneficial to everybody. So there was a market called the energy imbalance market that was layered over the California ISO market to allow that to happen. And it allowed us to leverage underutilized resources and put some stability in place that wasn't there before as the markets, the renewable energy penetration grew. So this, I think this is maybe now a couple of years old, but the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, for instance, was one of the later entries. And so you can see that it's gradually unifying the West. And one of the reasons why this is relevant is that each one of these new areas is under its own jurisdiction, and none of them wanted to let Cal ISO be one that would manage their grid or their production or any of that stuff. So what happened is that the developers of the EIM market were able to come up with the system that allowed significant local autonomy, but also allowed the energy to cross borders. And that was, in some ways, revolutionary, in my opinion. So PacifiCorp was the first one to jump in terms of joining the market. And I'm just going to say their first year benefit in terms of what they would have spent to serve their load versus what they did spend, or their net overall was 34 million. And now I think they're approaching 400 million as we speak today. So, and the tagline, of course, is that I will say properly designed markets bring benefits. And so Latin America is looking to evolve their markets in a way that provides similar benefits if they can be captured. So now let's take a look at what's on the horizon in Colombia. This is a map of Colombia, their transmission. Partner Ecuador. They have a connection to Venezuela, but no that is nothing. They have a transmission system that stops at the Darien Gap in Panama. So this is a proposed transmission line that would link up the Central American markets with Colombia and the rest of South America. And so when I was down there in October, that was a topic of conversation with some of the folks from Panama, that this Darien Gap line would unify that region and allow more extensive energy trading. Here's Latin America, and you can see this is a set of transmission lines that is specifically intended to provide more capability to transfer energy in that area, and in particular renewable energy. And so here again, and actually do have transmission, but here's the Darien Gap again, no transmission. But this is a regional market already. There are agreements in place across all the governments, not including Mexico, to facilitate moving energy across the transmission grid. So these are things that are in place and that people are working to facilitate that trade. So right now what's going on, they call it Proyecto SAM. And unfortunately, at some point last night, I realized that the only graphic I had was in Spanish. So forgive me for that. But in here are a set of interface to a market operator, a set of data models that allow them to have a more active bidding market and to go from a simple price per day to at least an hourly price with congestion pricing and velocity. So this is what we're doing today. We're going to new XML data formats. The amount of data that's being traded is increasing, as it always does when you introduce new markets, and to automate and centralize the data management. So essentially, we took many, many applications across the XM organization and centralized them into a few products that are more markets coming up. Coming up soon is intraday and intra-hourly markets, so probably either half-hour or 15-minute prices. Again, this is important for renewables because renewables change and they need to be price dynamic. Multi-part locational marginal pricing, that means you price in transmission congestion, price in losses, and you get a more accurate price, and that means there's less money and less what I call leakage, meaning that there are revenue streams that don't get fully accounted for, and then they have to be doled out somehow in mechanisms that are inefficient. New markets for things like frequency regulation and reserves. And there's also advanced metering infrastructure coming up that's kind of interesting. Advanced metering infrastructure is crucial for distributed energy applications and that sort of thing. So these are all things that are happening. They're coming down the pike in the next few years. They really have the potential to transform the market down there. So here we're just talking about some of the other opportunities. I'm going to go down here and say a pool market, a well-designed market gives access to smaller players like distributed energy resources. It makes for a more active market and it makes for a more accurately priced market. So all of these things tend to bring new players in to the picture. And that means smaller developers of renewable energy and that sort of thing. Colombia still has, believe it or not, they've got huge hydro, but the Caribbean coast is linked by weak transmission, and so they burn gas down there. So that's part of what's going on. The advanced metering infrastructure will bring in the opportunity to do demand side resources, local storage, to peak shaving and that sort of thing. And I think I already got to that. So this is the kind of thing that's happening in Colombia. It's happening elsewhere. I think it's kind of an opportunity that's flying under the radar in a lot of ways. But you think of South America and it's not top on your list, but there are also places like Vietnam doing this now, putting markets in place. There's a market that just opened up in the Philippines, for instance. So all of these markets that are sort of not the behemoths, as I say, but the smaller markets, they're out there and they're not standing still. So what do you need to get to the opportunity? Well, in order to reach and exploit some of these opportunities, you need systems in place, and that's kind of where we come in. So the things that are opening up are things like resource and fleet optimization. The generator operators, a lot of them, you've heard this 100 times, they're schlepping spreadsheets up and down the hallways, right? Bidding optimization, you go from one bid per day to potentially 4 bits per hour per resource, all of a sudden your existing don't work. Market and settlement data acquisition, these things need to be automated because now you're pulling in many prices per day over many intervals per day. Cal ISO is now 10,000 pricing notes, somewhere around there, and they price 12 times an hour. So when you go to intra-hour and you go to a locational system, you have a huge explosion of data. Settlements validation and shadow settlements, these things can't be done manually anymore. They have to be done automatically. Billing and invoicing, all of that stuff has to go into place in order to have an active market, particularly interregional. So these are the kind of things that we're working on to try and make sure that, that the market participants are prepared for what's about to happen. This is my my preaching sheet. When the technology turns over, you have these things that are happening, and you need to look at these points of how your systems are put into place. So we talk about the 5 pillars. This is as relevant here as it is anywhere else. Flexibility, because market rules change all the time. Business models change all the time. Scalability, this is so important for these smaller markets because they can't spend millions upon millions of dollars for a product where the market may not even be developed to require it yet, but it will be. Maintainability, obviously, you have various skill sets and various staffing in various places. You have to have a product that could be up and running and maintained with the staff that's in place at the time. These are all things we talk about. Availability, maintaining access, being able to access that data whenever it's required, wherever it's required in the organization. Finally, auditability. This is one that tends to get lost, but you need to be able to track every piece of data that moves through that system. That is non-trivial. So when you have that in place, then you have a market, then you have a market player. Then you have somebody that can participate in a fully automated market that prices in intervals that are relevant to a green energy application. And here's what we're doing. I mean, this is what's happening in Colombia and in a lot of places, and that is that you're looking out over the course of the next 2 or 3 years, or maybe 4 or 5 years, you're looking at least a 10-fold increase in the data that you're dealing with. So in order to deal with that, you need to automate and you need to put the applications in place. So this is what we see. We see at least a 10-fold increase in data coming along in order to be able to do real-time pricing, time-based pricing, and in order to do what they call here wheel energy, meaning to send energy into different regions on the transmission line, which is crucial. So we'll leave that. And I think I'm about to come to the conclusion, which means that I'm going to finish this thing up, I think, in the allocated time. So we're seeing a transformation here in Latin America. I think this transformation, like I say, Vietnam is in the process of putting a market in place that could eventually lead to regional markets across Southeast Asia. Of course, the Philippines probably won't be doing, but the interesting thing about the Philippines is there's something like 200 islands in the archipelago, right? So they're already looking at linking the islands through undersea transmission and that sort of thing. So these kind of challenges are out there, and the regional markets are one of the best ways to ensure that you get a robust development of green energy. So you start planning now, and this is our, as I say, this is our preaching here, but you need to we need to be preaching that these systems are supported both on the central market side and on the side of the market participants. We spend so much of our time with the market operators arguing for outreach to their players so that their players are ready when the market launches. And that's a message that we take everywhere we go. You have to You have to bring your market participants along when you make changes to the market structures. If you can come up with, and if the vendor community can come up with systems that are appropriate to the needs of the customer now, but that are scalable and ready to go when the changes come along, then we will have done a great service to the renewable energy community in general. And so we look toward a bright future there, certainly in Latin America, but also across the world. So that's my pitch, folks.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Chapter. This is the excellent presentation. Talk about the electricity market. So in the U.S., electricity market already 20 years. So our market are mature and one of the market. Our next speaker is Dr. Venture Capital and Aurora Dr. was a long-time friend. He used to be doing the solar business entrepreneur in China, and also he is zero energy building. And so currently, this is why the venture capitalist. So we know technology, but we also need the investor. What's the future? So in everything, you can see big companies, basically, China and also on, but all the startups or develop. What's the capital you go with? Okay, so we welcome Dr. Ji Hongchen. He holds a PhD from University of Colorado State and a bachelor from the Beijing University. Dr. Ji also is advisor of the Global Green Development Plan. So welcome, Dr. Ji.
Give me 1 second. Huh? Right. It's okay.
Thank you. Good afternoon. We all work very hard to make the world better. Some of you are engineers, professors, entrepreneurs, and also build this wonderful Global Green Development Alliance. Thank you for that. And my interest and work is as a venture capitalist, to invest in high impact startups to build a better world. And I resonate a lot with the mission we have here. That is to knowledge, ideas, and share experience, collaborate on high impact initiatives. And in that spirit, I want to share a little bit of my past experience, as Geoffrey mentioned, in clean energy. About 20 years ago, I did spend a lot of time on solar energy policy strategy, started from my PhD years, Colorado Boulder, and my research at the National Renewable Energy Lab. Back then, my primary focus was to really understand on total electron level, the physics of solar energy conversion, why we cannot push it higher, or what kind of physics we can utilize to make solar more efficient, and also to develop new materials to be able to demonstrate physics and also incorporate them into devices so that we not only understand the theory, but really, as two publications here as examples of the work we have done before on the top, new kind of solar cell. We made the world record efficiency in that little category. The paper was cited for more than 500 times. And the second publication was to understand, is it possible for us to get more than one electron from every photon we absorb from this? So that's on the research part. And then I would move on to industry later on to start my own company and founded Optony. Optony was really 3 companies under one umbrella. One is developing advanced solar panels, and then the second was build large solar farms. And we built some of the early ones, or the largest ones in China and also in the States. The third division was to provide consulting service to our clients in government and the industry. More than a dozen of local government in the Bay Area for our clients, and we also worked closely with energy and other. And a third thing she also mentioned was the solar decathlon work I did as an NGO. And she also mentioned in 2011, there was the US-China collaboration big conference in Washington. In fact, the then President Hu Jintao of China visited President Obama, and in their White House press release, they announced their support of our project. The first ever for decathlon in Asia. We got 23 teams from more than 13 countries to come together. We spent 3 years to design, build, and compete on zero energy buildings. You can see the picture of that. Those are the real houses from the countries design, build locally, and they ship all the parts to China that they can put the houses side by side to compete during the competition. Those houses, right? Collecting data and see which one is better. And there was very exciting work there. So that's a long time for me the opportunity to share. And my current interest and work is build investing companies, and especially those high impact startups. What I call high impact startups are the ones that they can really disrupt the industry with a new solution, and then very often with a very good proprietary technology. And emphasize ESG, and we have throughout my career from my student time to now, we have always been very key emphasizing ESG even before this term. And impact-wise, we really want to make sure whether we invest in healthcare or energy or material or IT, we want to make sure that our company can make a large number of people much better. And we typically start from very early of the stage, our sweet spots that can really leverage our understanding in technology, our experience in entrepreneurship, and our very broad network to help a young company at the right and to grow to better. And we are not a sector-specific fund, and we actually invest in a very wide range of sectors, including energy, healthcare, IT, and many others. In fact, we don't have a boundary. So we look at the possible impact of those startups, not what specifically they are doing. And we're not passive investors. We're very active. And we not only provide capital, but provide resource and other help. I'm going to give a few examples today for the interest of time. I will share 7 portfolio companies. This is for the ones that we already exited, meaning they either were acquired or IPO. Don't have equities with them anymore, but just examples to get a sense of the range of our first one is Oculus, a radar company, high resolution radar company back in robotics. They were required this year by Umbrella. And the second is a new Vector. It's a 3D software company. This year was acquired by. And then there is a Therapeutics. We invested in 2015. And I IPO'd in 2019. It was one of the top 10 best performing IPO of the year in the States. And Arinex medical device company in 2016. It was acquired by Fortune 500 company Stryker in 2009. For all the companies that we get involved with them very early on, and typically when we invest, the total value of the company range only from a few $1 million below tens of $1,000,000. And by the time they exit, they are worth $100 million or $80 million, right? And so I want to spend a little bit more time to share with you 3 current portfolio companies. And because of group today, we're in development alliance. So, and the previous speakers talked about energy and energy efficiency and transportation quite a bit. The 3 companies I want to share, 2 are related to energy, and also our alliance to global health. So I will share a healthcare company we're currently working with. The first one is Green Energy. It is a lithium-ion battery company. What they can do is they can charge an electric car less than. And I hope this one will be able to compete with the hydrogen. Dr. Jin mentioned that hydrogen can fuel faster, so we want to start a friendly competition. And but Dr. Jin was right that for right now it takes even for Tesla, if you go to take your Tesla to a supercharger, it takes about 40 minutes to charge from 0 to 80%. And if we can do it in under 10 minutes, really the time is comparable as allowed. And you know, even with a small one single entity, performance is one thing, cost is another, so never one-dimensional. For Green Energy, they can do fast charging, and they can also have very low cost, and their batteries last a very, very long time. EV, they can last 3,000 cycles, which is able to power for 1 million miles. And I want to mention that this company is not far from here. It's in San Jose, and it's in production now. It's not just on paper or in labs. It's in production. And we have people here comparing Green Energy performance with other. For the interest of time, I'm not going to discuss any number here, but if you're interested, I'd be happy to The second one is a charging and energy data management company. So charging related to energy, that's why I picked it. Share with you fact across the funds we have invested in about 100 companies in the States alone, and that's the way we focus on US market. And so Robotics is based in Seattle. For so many applications, when you think of charging, wireless is the only option or the best option. Think about the easy ones to understand. If you have an underwater robot, want to charge it, you cannot just pull out a cable and charge it. So wireless is the only option. And so for drone, in a lot of remote locations, you send your drone to collect the data, do some inspection of your power line, for example, and they need to be recharged, and they need to be able to charge it themselves. And the wireless charging is the most feasible option. And I want to emphasize that Robotic not only provides charging, it also manages energy and other data. For instance, you got to know when to charge your drone or your robots, and also for a drone to inspect the transmission line. After every flight, there is a lot of data to download and to transfer. And so they provide the total solution for energy and data. And they're going to space. This year, they got a few $1 million to make a wireless charger for the next moon rover for NASA. So 2024, 3 years from now, our product will be on the moon. And we're also working on a project for Mars. And they have more than 140 clients in water, on ground, in air, and in space, across many different sectors. So the last company to share is I picked a healthcare company to share because during COVID, our alliance organized many talks related to health. Make sure that we not only talk about energy today, but also talk a little bit about healthcare. Wavelink is a company we invested early on, and what they do is they provide a remote patient monitoring system from software to system analysis in AI to data service. And to give you a use case so that you can understand the power of the system. During COVID, various companies were developing vaccines, and for volunteers that took the shots, the drug developers monitor their vitals. And the old-fashioned way was to call back those volunteers and measure body temperature and things like that. But Wavelink does not need to call those volunteers back. You can measure their vitals remotely, and their sensors are able to collect medical level data, called FDA, and the data can be transferred shortly with HIPAA compliance remotely back to the drug developers or hospitals, and their AI algorithms analyze data and alert drug developers. And also they are able to analyze the data and provide the service applications. They are in more than 30 countries right now, and they're the #1 player in decentralized clinical trial, the kind of clinical trial I just shared with. Very many other applications during COVID in hospitals in China. Installed there's the nurses mostly monitor patients' body temperature to get close to the ocean, avoid environment. And so those are a few specific companies we're actively working with, and there are many, many more. So not going to start in too much of our advantage. Kind of, yeah, we're good at it. That basically we understand technology. We have built companies. We understand the dynamics of early stage companies, help entrepreneurs with our very good network and resources around the world, and we have managed quite a few funds successfully. So thank you for your attention for today, and I'll be happy to chat or collaborate, and hope all of you here or online have a happy holiday.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yu. And for the winter capital, you can know the future technology and a lot of money. With that. So right now we have a 10 minutes and answer. So like our four keynote speaker come here, so we have a few questions. So four chairs. Yeah, so today, all our speakers are really excellent. However, the time limitation, we only have 10 minutes. I like Dr. Wang. So first, he prepared the question for each of the speaker. After that, we'll open question for all the audience.
Thank you, Xiaofeng. Thank you, everybody, for joining this session. My name is Qin Wang, Vice President for GLOGD organizations, and also a technical leader and EPRI, Secretary of Power Research Institute in Colorado. So we have only 10 minutes. So first, I will ask one question for each speaker first, and then if the audience have additional questions, you can ask. Let's start from the first speaker, that's Professor Ji Sweeney. You talk about the energy efficiency policy for decarbonization. So what do you think the cost for energy efficiency will be? So I mean, there's a cost for energy efficiency. So how do you expect the cost will change and during the next decade or so in both US and China?
Thanks. As a whole, the cost of the energy efficiency that we've been implementing has been lower than the cost of the energy that's been saved through that system. You can look at that in automobiles, where in 1973, the average car got 12 miles a gallon. Now the average car gets about 25 miles a gallon. The fuel saved is been more than the cost of the energy efficiency. LED light bulbs pay for themselves in about 3 months at most. Some energy efficiency is probably much too expensive and won't be implemented. And so energy efficiency, like many things across the board, has a very high range of costs. And what we can find is that we're continually to invent and create new processes, as well as new energy that is less expensive than the energy it saves. And that's what I expect will continue.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. So the second question will be for Dr. Chen. So you talk about hydrogen. So I do not want to focus on too much technical details. I'm wondering the market for hydrogen. So I'm familiar with the LA area. So it looks like the hydrogen is not developing fast as we expected. So what do you think the barrier is for stopping the fast development of developing hydrogen network in the US or other countries?
Okay, let me comment on this. About 10 years ago, California decided to start with passenger cars, which had a high pressure 700 bars, 70 megapascal. But the market adoption, the consumers' confidence in that was not as much as expected. And then lately, the government-sponsored program, and along with the industry players, they gradually shifted to this more planned routes by buses and medium-duty trucks and heavy-duty trucks. I think that so for consumer products, it's a different story from this business product. I think that's the key. If I want to buy a hydrogen car today, I would worry about the convenience, where I can get the hydrogen supply. Second, I would be worried about the safety, because the majority of the public people, we don't know much about hydrogen, even though we know the word. It is safe enough. We really don't know yet. The third thing is the cost. And we care about at the level of like $1, $2. And so the consumer is more sensitive to this cost variation. Three things: convenience, safety, and cost. So now I think that both at the federal government level and the state government level, industry, the policymakers, the consumers, they have reached a kind of consensus. Let's focus on this scheduled use of the vehicles, like the buses and the trucks. Okay, that's my comment.
Okay, thank you. Third one is Jeff. So in your presentation, you talk about the market development in North America, South America, I guess, Latin America. So in your opinion, what's the uniqueness or the difference between the market in US and in South America? Because the wholesale market has been developing for 20 more years in the US, is pretty mature. So people are talking about some deep retail market. So we have the wholesale market as the ISOs in the US. Now people are talking about the retail market. So the first question is, do you have any opinions on the retail market? Second one is the difference of the market between US and the Latin America.
Let me talk about the retail market first, because in California, we've had a lot of development around that with the community choice associations and that sort of thing, to where the utility is less and less involved in that process. But there are still cost recovery charges, there are still distribution management charges, that sort of thing. That's probably going to go on in Colombia as well. But the interesting thing in Colombia is that for their advanced metering infrastructure that they're putting in, they're creating an organization that's essentially a meter data clearinghouse. So the meter data will not be owned by, or will not be processed through the utilities. Anybody that wants to be a retail provider will go to this organization that's a meter data clearinghouse, which I think is a good idea, because this has been the last bastion of the utilities trying to maintain some kind of hegemony over the retail market, is the actual meter. And so this removes the meter from that process. And the more you topple those kind of barriers to small entrepreneurs, the more they will innovate, and the more those kind of ideas can enter the market. So I think that's a big development. The second thing I'll say, jumping over to the structure of markets, is that a lot of that has to do with, obviously it has to do with sort of the level of industrial development and the political atmosphere and that sort of thing. But it also has a whole lot to do with the type of transmission system that you have in place. type of resources you have, the type of opportunities, for instance, solar, for instance, wind, where are those areas that sort of opportunity is available. Those vary from place to place and from market to market. So what works in one market you may change priorities in another market based on that. And I think that's less understood. Colombia has a lot of hydro, and hydro is theoretically is clean in quotes, and it's flexible. But it turns out that a lot of their hydro is just run of river. There's no dam there. You just generate whatever the river gives you. So it's almost like a variable resource in that sense. And so the management of that resource is completely different than if you had hydro with the dam behind it, if you have a reservoir. So each one of these things, and this is what makes it interesting, they each have their own set of constraints and each have their own set of priorities. But the one thing that I think is constant is that the more you expand the area over which you can trade energy, trade differences between the demand here and the demand there, the better your market's going to function and the more opportunity there'll be. So reduce barriers and then expand the footprint, I think is the recipe. So.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. And last one is Dr. Yu. So I know you have been very successful in conducting early stage investment. So you mentioned that you have did investment in different areas. Some areas maybe it's up the scope of your knowledge. So I'm wondering what techniques or skills do you have to select the project that you think will be successful? Do you have any experience to share?
Okay, I guess the question is a few folds there. One is, when we invest in different companies, different industries, naturally, some of them will be beyond our knowledge boundary. And how do we kind of understand them, and what kind of criteria do we use to pick any early stage startups? So I have been, in my team, a few of us, we have been fortunate that early on we studied, even in our early career, we have studied a broader range of technologies or subjects. In my case, I got my PhD in physical chemistry, so there was a lot of chemistry, a lot of physics that I did. The company was a lot of engineering work. So, and also in the past many years, we intentionally not to set any boundary industry. So we were able to look at and work with and learn from so many startups and entrepreneurs. So our knowledge, every day, every deal we do, our accumulated knowledge get to be more and more. So to enable us to understand the next one, even though for the kind of things we invest in, a lot of them are involved in early stage deep tech, and it's hard for us to keep up. But we can, try to learn faster so that we can understand enough. But the enough is often enable us to make an investment decision. We never have the illusion that we will know more than the entrepreneurs. They always know more. And but you don't need to know all the details to be able to tell if it's logical or not. There are many different angles we can look at. In fact, if the entrepreneur or if the technology is really the best, it's much easier to be identified than if it's mediocre, right? If you have a Nobel Prize in your field, we know you're top there in your field. So the mediocre ones that are harder to tell, is it real? Are you really better? But if you're the best, whether in energy or material or in IT, there are many clear angles we can kind of look at to be able to tell. And these are the technical aspects of the deal. And a very important element in deciding on the early stage investment is the entrepreneur. And we like in our case, when we're fortunate enough to meet some of the best entrepreneurs, and by what they have achieved before, and by we have a kind of a way to ask it. We try to ask the right questions and have them to respond by listening to the logic. And you know that if you I don't want to name anything, but like if there is any of the favorite entrepreneur, if that person is in front of you, you have the trust in this entrepreneur, and you know the level of this entrepreneur's business acumen and also technical knowledge and the team. So that's a very key component for us to assess who is the who that matters, and the who will be able to make the what to work out eventually over time. And given we consider all these aspects, the high impact of the technology, the entrepreneur, there is still a fair amount of risk for an early stage startup. So that's why we never expect that we will make all the right decisions. We never expect from any entrepreneur that it's going to be a successful, smooth ride. We are always upfront. Let's give it a try. Let's work it out together. And it's a collaborative, it's a partnership. And for a fund, we have a portfolio so that they offset certain risk in the portfolio. So in the end, as long as a good portion of the companies eventually work out, the model works.
Thank you for sharing. That's very informative. So wondering if the audience have any questions to any of the speakers. Okay.
Yeah, this is a question on hydrogen. As I understand it, a lot of hydrogen today is generated using hydrocarbons, and hence perhaps overall isn't so great. I just wondered what the longer term technologies you're looking to generate the fuel itself in a climate friendly manner.
Yes, that has to be green hydrogen, not the green hydrogen, not the blue hydrogen. So green hydrogen means renewable power to electrolyze water, split the water. So that's the ultimate solution. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I guess I'll speak here. Thanks for all of your presentations. They've been great. This is a question more for Dr. Ji Hongchen. And other guests can feel free to chime in. So as of energy solutions, I feel a lot of them, they're pretty capital intensive, and you're gonna put a lot of upfront capital, and there's a lot of risk, and as well as a very long duration in terms of having the first pilot project until that can become available to the market. So I'm just wondering, is there any special strategies in terms of your portfolio, in terms of tackling the risk and upfront capital intensity in terms of energy solutions, as opposed to other things, other companies in your portfolio, such as IT or software or healthcare, those that might not have such a long duration or higher risk or capital intensity as energy or infrastructure projects? Yeah.
So that's a very good question. Thanks for asking. Even when I was an entrepreneur in the energy space, when I went to Sand Hill to talk to the investors, I emphasized capital efficiency. Back then, there was too much money. That was like 15 years ago, 16, 17 years ago. There was too much money. So many investors just ignore capital efficiency. And they're too attracted to a specific technology. And a lot of them didn't have background in this space. They came from IT, for example. There was a false illusion or understanding of how long this will take, how much money it will take. For the reasons that you mentioned, not just capital efficiency and the amount of capital involved, but also for any specific industry, there is a, it's very different lifetime to develop technology, commercialize them. For those reasons, they compound together. If you analyze the investors in Silicon Valley in clean tech 15, 20 years ago, most of them failed miserably because of the question you were asking. But how we deal with that? It's often said that it's the unknown that will kill you. If capital amount is a known uncertainty or is a known factor you need to consider, you can analyze it upfront. Is this going to take $1 billion to develop, or 100 million, or 10 million? Right? Once it's known, then you have a strategy, or you decide not to do it. And in fact, there's a huge difference between not only sectors, but also even within a sector. For example, people talk here, the speakers talk about energy generation, or even if you narrow it down to solar itself, there are different ways to make solar. And in that solar industry, you can also decide to be a panel developer or system integrator. So in a specific industry, any specific project will have a very different capital requirement. In fact, in some of them, it requires surprisingly little money than the perception might give you. And it's not just, hey, energy projects is always more expensive than IT. I give you, the 7 examples I showed you, the battery company, the lithium ion battery company we invested in. They have not burned too much capital yet, and they were able to very quickly use very little amount of capital to go from lab to production. And there is a lot of strategy in that. So the short answer is, since you asked this, or when we look at any deal, we will kind of look at the specific requirement. Is there any way to manage it or predict it? So as long as there is no surprise, that's fine. And and also, you also need to kind of balance between the perceived risk and the reward and the barrier. It's not just a one thing. Sometimes, if it takes a lot to develop, it by itself is also a barrier. Not necessarily the easier ones are the ones that are going to be more profitable. Sometimes the harder ones will be more profitable because, like many of my portfolio companies, they are monopolies in their industry because they have so many patents and they are able to develop business model, be able to raise capital, and for a long time they would be able to enjoy some sort of monopoly so that they can have 90-95% of gross margin and build a very valuable business.
Thank you. So due to time limitation, we have only one last question. So anyone who want to ask the last one? No? We are good. Okay.
So we will take the group photo after the meeting. So you that's the seat. So we got in front is have a seat. Got some chair in the front. So some people in the back. When everyone sit like that. 就说那年轻的呢可以站到后边，前边的呢就坐前边就可以到前边。We will move the chair little.
Well, that's surprising.
你能够把这个把那个把我那张地，这张地。
Other than California. California. You realize that the first time equivalent of a carbon tax was raised. You know, before the peak started, every time the Carter administration first came in, and they just routinely get voted down.
Yeah, it's that's interesting.
那我们把它打开来拍照啊，然后这些小朋友的人要这个，你们年轻人都在后边，人站在后边，年轻人就两边，你们站这边，那边都是。
Almost everyone in the sector doing regulation. And then it can't be right now. Little further. And so 10% of it is the work is cap and trade and all the rest.
来，这边还有那个好多气儿啊。
Realistically, I mean, I like a cap and trade. I like it. I also like something for which you can get votes from both parties. Or you get a majority.
Yeah, the strangest, well, various groups. Yeah, trade, but it's a funny thing that the market be in favor of such a thing, yet they've come out against it.
Yeah.
倒吗？
I actually.
不倒了吧？入画了没？
怎么样都能照下了是吧？
That's something that is.
A little bit.
They're, in my mind, they're functionally equivalent. This one's hard to implement, the other's easy to implement.
Yeah. Both seem.
And we're both politically dead.
Come on, sorry. 1, 2, 3. One, two, three. One, two, three. Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, we have
Nice
a
seeing you
team.
again. I'm gonna run off quickly because I've gotta change into black, go home, change into black tie, feed the cats, and then get into meet somebody at Menlo Park by 5:15.
You got your work cut out.
I'm not getting it.
啊，马上就是这个了，这个面装的 paper 啊，你那个作品，你跟他讲吗？他要走了，给他走了。
对，我那个，哎，今天没有不是主要做。
Good to see you again. Remind me of your English name. Helen. Yeah. I know your It's okay. I was thinking we were going to have
其实这个只有一个体系，宣传特别少，就简单。
要不然别人家怎么？那这个你这个你来喝，你这个哎呦，你把这个
好，hello everybody. Can we sit down? Because we are running very late, and so we have another forum actually planned. Yeah, round table forum. Yeah, sorry, we're running like 1 hour late.
Thank you, thank you. I have to go.
你先你第一个发言。你已经来了，不是说是照张贴给人发你第一个发言。
说什么呀？
啊？
我们这样说什么呀
？Okay. Okay. So let's start the.
你念一遍这个 round table 的。
Yeah, let's start the round table and so yeah, round table forum. Okay.
那就先 round table 啊。
Yeah. Okay. So can everybody sit down?
哎呀，我们就不要欺负人。哎，对对对对，哎，或者是对对 ，OK。哎，那边还有好多桌子啊。
Sorry, we are running very late. Actually, 1 hour late. Okay, we're supposed to start this round table. Yeah, at 3 right now. It's already over 4. Sorry for taking everybody so long. Let's start right away. Okay. So this round table is about just like an informal forum about the general comment on how this climate change will impact the industry, like the power industry and environmental, all this kind of stuff, and also relate to the area you are working. Okay, if you are working in the energy market, how this will impact the energy market. If you are working on the smart transportation, how this will impact your area activities. Okay, so let's start first. Okay. First, my name is George Zhou. I'm the VP of Green Energy Development Alliance, and welcome everybody to this roundtable forum. We have nice speakers here today, and our first speaker is Dr. Guangyi Liu. He's the chief scientist of Envision Digital, and he is also a fellow of Chinese Society of Electrical Engineers. Welcome, Dr.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you. My name is Guangyi. I joined the Envision group this January. Before I'm the CTO here. This is immediate fire the Nissan battery component. So after that, we build the battery production lines in Tennessee, and we have the production line in French and England, and we have 2 production lines in China, in UC. On the third part is we call the revision editor. Basically, we have a few products. One is for the monitoring the maintaining system for the wind and the solar farm and the solar farm. And secondly, we developed the weather forecasting system. And based on the weather forecasting system, we developed the wind production forecasting and for the load forecasting. And because our headquarters is in Singapore, so we added the products for the smart city in Singapore. So we developed the Singapore, the whole country smart city system, including the harbor management and for the park, for the smart building, and even for the power part of the smart meter management system. And when I joined this group, I developed the products smart grid. So basically, we focus on the carbon intensity of electricity. So basically, we based on the carbon emission from the generator. We based on the power grid model. We can calculate for each load or each substation how much one is consumed, 1 kilowatt hour, how many gram carbon they use. So in this way, we can help the customers to know exactly how much carbon they use. Because in China, we want to reach the carbon peak in 2030, and then we will get the carbon neutral in 2050. So this is very important for the manufacturers, especially they export their products to Europe or to US, because in the next few years, the Europe and the US will apply the carbon tax. So right now we help the power grid to develop the system to calculate the carbon intensity of the electricity. So this is a brand new in business in China. So these are from.
Okay, look like some very interesting, exciting in a new area, new company.
Yes.
Yeah. Especially right now is on the climate change. Everybody care about this, right?
So, yes, we got some new business.
Yeah, very nice. Okay. Yeah, our next speaker is Helen Hu. She is the CEO and the founder of Sunet Consulting. Welcome, Helen.
Hi, everybody. I will make my speaker very short. Yeah, thank you. And I learned a lot from your presentation. And our company provides the software for utility companies for their audit management and the logging system. So we try to, our product try to provide the make the utility company work more efficient and safely. That's our purpose, our software purpose. For efficient, for the green energy, I think the only related is like Jeff said, we did some integration with California's EM system to provide the generation rate. So that's why I think we related. Yeah. So that's all. Thank you. We are a small company and then very small compared with yours, compared with the, I think quite a few, yeah, we're small size company.
Her company is in San Jose. Is
Yeah,
it
we are San
nearby
Jose.
this
We have
place?
20 years history. We have 75 utility customers, and most customers in the North US, North American, and only one in Australia.
Yeah, actually, Helen Hu, yeah, her company is around like for so many years. Actually,
Yeah,
right?
20 years. 20
Yeah,
years.
it's a very long history actually.
Yeah. 20 years.
She was a former ADD employee and started company some years ago. Yeah. Very nice. So thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very
thank
much.
you.
Yeah, your customer, most US utilities, right?
Yeah, the customer is in the utility in North America, from the Fortune 500 to middle size. From different kind, you know, the American utility have different kind, right? The public, the city owned, the government owned. So yeah, we cover. I think we cover all different type of utilities now. We are software use their control center. I think we cover like we cover transmission generation. So for their operation.
Yeah, actually, your software company's main product is the outage management, right?
Hmm?
Outage management for the utility
Yeah.
company, right? So,
Outage management.
that
We
is-
have a suite. We have different modules.
oh, okay.
So outage management is one of them.
Oh, okay.
And then we generate a report to, we help the utility to comply for the NERC requirement. So like miss operation report, a NERC report, yeah.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good, okay. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
have to go. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for coming.
Very much.
Sure, glad to meet you.
Bye-bye. Happy holiday.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Dr. Tan Huang. He's the Vice President of the North American Power Professional, Chinese North American Power Professional Association, North California, and he's a senior engineer at Lawrence Livermore National Lab.
Hey, hello.
Dr. Huang.
Okay. One, at George Ridge, like I have two roles. First one is I serve as a so first my role is to serve as the Vice President of Amazing Theory at the California branch. So what is Amazing Theory? Amazing stands for North American Power Professional Association. It's a non-profit organization founded by a group of Chinese power engineers in California in 2009. So we have a history of like 12 years. So what do we do? So our mission is to collect and communicate with power engineers in North America and to work together to find a better solution for our energy needs. And what we do, we have some platforms like WeChat group and email list, to help our engineers here to communicate, better communicate with each other. And we also had organized the technical seminars monthly. And here, one particular, I want to mention some of the seminars we co-host with the Xiaohui organization together. So we have a very good collaboration experience with Xiaohui, with Jordan, and with Qimang. So we really hope in future we have more opportunity to cover some very interesting activities like this one today. And okay, so this one is last thing I want to mention is so far for university we have a membership of members of 2,000, and most of the members are in their power system engineer and the researchers in North America. So this is about amazing theory. My official role is senior power system engineer at North Livermore Lab. So some of you probably may know this place. So North Livermore is a federal funded research center. It's a sponsor and managed by the Department of Energy. And what do we do? normally what we do is like we receive funding from like Department of Energy, Department of Defense, and Department of Homeland Security, and collaborate with some local academia and industry to develop and demonstrate some pilot projects. So here some information I want to share is like actually Department of Energy with they provide some funding opportunity to the small business to try to mature and polish their technology. And also like we have some like large fund like $1 million fund opportunity like for the national lab to collaborate with the vendors and the small some other manufacturers to demonstrate their new technology. So I'm also looking forward to collaboration with the to have yeah, thank you for the invitation, and I'm really happy with this opportunity here to see you all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wang. Okay, so actually, every person coming from different background, that's very nice. Okay, our next speaker is Dr. Paul Manfred. He's the chairman and Palo advisor, and also CFO of our organization, Green Energy Development Alliance.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought I'd share just one brief story. I'm a member of a seed capital investment group at Stanford, mostly made up of emeritus professors and other people closely associated with the university. And we invest in really early stage companies, many times companies that are being started by the students of the professors in the group. The goals actually sound similar to what Dr. Yu was talking about with his organization, although we tend to invest at even a lower level than the typical venture or seed capital group. Anyway, one of our companies, I just thought I'd mention, is a company called Aurora Solar. And what they do, they don't actually do any manufacturing or research and development. What they have is what's called a software as a service company. And they, in a largely automated way, develop plans for small up to fairly large solar projects. And they're using all kinds of information that wasn't previously very available, typically to analyze the roof pattern, the shades from neighboring trees and other terrain. And turns out the U.S. Geological Service is developing a LiDAR image of pretty much every area of the United States now to be completed in 2022. So they use LiDAR images to analyze the roofs and the coverage. LiDAR is the same technology used by some self-driving vehicles. It uses various spectrums of the electromagnetic spectrum, not just visible light, also maybe ultraviolet, infrared even. And anyway, it's able to, they are able to analyze a site remotely, so they don't actually have to send a group of people out and use drones and so forth. Anyway, they use this data, and then they have a detailed model of many kinds, 3D modeling of the roofs. They also have finance modules. So what they're able to do anyway is to very quickly produce a detailed plan for a possible solar project that can be used by installers and other people that actually do the physical work to present to clients. And it's been an extremely popular service because it's a pretty complicated thing to generate all the plans, figure out all the parts are necessary, how many inverters, how many panels, cables, and so forth. Anyway, so far they've done 5 million projects and are growing very rapidly. So it's just one of the many niches in the solar business that is probably necessary to allow it to grow.
Okay, thank you. So next one will be one page or multiple page? That's one page. Yeah, our next speaker is Dr. Jin Yang. He is CEO and the founder of GridX. Dr.
Thanks, everyone. My name is Jian. Yeah.
We have your one thing.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Jian Zhang. I am a founder and CEO of GridX. I am a little bit about myself. Over the last 20 years, I've been focusing on technologies to monetize assets, to operationalize business model. So more specifically, billing settlements, operational management software. Back in the 90s, I was involved in a startup that developed a telecom billing software, which ultimately was acquired by Oracle, become Oracle's telecom billing software offering. After that, I spent a few years developing technology for billing settlement for digital media verticals. And over the last 10 years, I've been building GridX, which is a utility billing companies. Over the last 10 years, we've been, I think today, the company is about 150 employees. And so we are doubling revenue. I wanted to also say that the energy industry is actually a fantastic place to be in. I'm actually very happy to see a lot of young people here. I think over the next several decades, it's going to be the energy decades. But to set a sort of a landscape in a context, I thought I would prepare one slide just to sort of this is my sort of personal cheat sheet of the industry landscape. I think Jun Sweeney talked about the macro level how to decarbonize the industry. I'm more focused in the micro level, in the firm, in the company level. So what you see here essentially is a clean energy landscape, whereby in the middle you have a traditional market participant such as utility, wholesale market, ISO, RTO. And because of the industry deregulation, because of clean energy transition, we are seeing a large number of new participants. Now in the retail level, so those are traditionally retail energy suppliers. They are essentially similar level as in the utility to participate in energy retail business. Very much as a result of industry deregulation. And then in California here, the California flavor of retail supplier is CCA, as we all familiar of. And similarly in the utility level, there's an emerging sort of player in the market. Some of it actually already went public recently. Something called VPP, virtual power plant. Virtual power plant basically aggregate behind the meter resources, DER resources, and bid into the wholesale market. And then in the community level, there's the EV charging network, which is a very fast growing area. And then microgrid operators, which it's not very obvious right now, but it's going to be a latent opportunities as we build up these resiliencies in the grid. And certainly in the US here, community solar has been growing explosively. So those are all sort of a new participant in the market as a result of either deregulation or clean energy transition. And in the wholesale level, they're also very, very fast growing, very dynamic area as well. So there's a traditional IPP, mostly coal and natural gas-based generator will participate in the more organized market. And then the newer generators, such as solar farms and wind farms, certainly have been growing very, very rapidly. What is also an area that's very, very dynamic is a customer which are on the bottom, sort of direct participation in the wholesale market through essentially something called PPA, power purchase agreements. Those are the large corporations, people like companies such as Google's and Facebook's and Amazon's, to even smaller scale companies which procure energy, clean energy directly from solar and wind generation through power purchase agreements. So, but regardless of what part of the market, there's always need to operationalize these variety of different assets and to monetize the new business model. And hence, the billing settlements technology become very critical. So far, GridX has been focusing on mostly in the retail level, in helping utilities and retail energy suppliers, BPPs moving to participate in the market by providing the billing technology. I'm actually, but there are also other opportunities in the market. I'm actually stepping down from GridX to focusing on the wholesale side, for the wholesale settlement side. So this is a very, very exciting market opportunity. So anyway, just want to share with you a little bit about myself and what we have been doing as part of GridX and the new opportunities in the market. As I said, this is a very energy market is a great place to be in right now, particularly for younger generation. I'm actually this is a very exciting place. Everywhere I look at, there's opportunities, and so it's a good time to be in the energy market. That's all.
Thank you, Dr. Zhang. Yeah, I agree. Actually, this time, in the recent several years, I think it's a great time for the energy industry, right? And solar and renewable energy, and like Dr. Yu probably has more experience in this area. Yeah. Okay. Our next speaker is Dr. Qin Wang. He is the Vice President of Green Energy Development Alliance and also senior project energy. Oh, okay, yeah, from every.
Okay, I want to share some research in our group about with the figures. So talk something about the 100% renewable grid of the future. So the California has passed the Senate bill SB 100 in 2018. So that means in California, the law requires the host state to reach 100% zero fuel cost in renewable. The hydro, unrenewable hydro. No, there is no CO2 emission on hydro. So California will reach 100% zero fuel cost grid by 2045. So there are about 25 years away. So so that means our grid will be changed fundamentally. So from this kind of indicators, from the generation side to the transmission distribution to customer and to the wholesale market. So for from the generation side, most of the energy will be satisfied by renewable wind and solar. But the issue is that the wind and solar they're very certain and they're very rare. That means the weather is bad. So how to address the batteries will be
very good solution for this. That's why recently the battery development very fast, booming around this solar farms. Solar battery should increase significantly in the next decades. So from the ISO side, wholesale market side, so the current system operation paradigm will change fundamentally. So now the ISO and the wholesale market that use some algorithms to optimize the resources and publish the price, the wholesale simply price it changes every 5 minutes. But in the future, when all the resources are renewables, so their marginal cost is zero. So like wind and solar, their marginal cost is zero. That's the zero marginal cost world in the future. So that means the current market optimization framework will be not working. There's a need for new market design for the settlement of the system in the future. Some people talk about using swing contracts rather than looking at the price measuring for the settlement market. Then from the utility side, so I know some people, even the high level people from NERC level, from SPERC level, they are talking about developing a DSO in parallel of the ISO. So DSO does not exist right now in the US. So, but people are talking about how to build a retail market, doing retail transactions and retail optimizations in parallel to the ISO. So right now, the utilities in USO play some part of the roles of DSO, but that's not that's from the market side. It's quite different from the ISO. Where people are talking about how to develop a similar market from the retail side. So that's something new, so that people. The customers can trade in the DSO. You have a rooftop solar, you have a power wall in your house, then you're not allowed to participate in the ISO direction on your side, but you may opt to participate in the DSO in the future. Then from the customer side, right now, the customers are very passive. They're not participating in the market. You pay your fixed rate monthly. That's all. But in the future, I think the customers will be more active in the market. They will have the power wall, they have their EV, or rooftop solar. Then we talk about how to sell the energy to the market to make money when there is a need on the grid. And when the price is low, you can charge your power wall, charge your vehicle. So that means the way you use electricity will change. That also means going to utility on the customer side. That's my share from my standpoint.
Another aspect of this wholesale market breakdown is unstructured transaction outside of ISO. A lot of this power purchase agreement essentially represent a unstructured market.
Yeah, PPA, right?
Yeah, PPA.
The long term.
They are long-term contracts, but they are totally outside of the confines of traditional ISO.
That's true. Yeah, you investing in a renewable panel, spend it, you have to do this longer contract, 20 or 30 years. It's got to be so, but they have to participate. Some parties you have to recommend the operation of the market. So that's another
Okay, thank you. Actually, there are a lot of issues and some issues are emerging, right? I think maybe April is doing some research in this area, right?
This is
Yeah.
the utilities are very interesting.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah, our next speaker is Dr. Hui Wang. She's the Director of Materials Chemistry and Life of America, North America.
Yes. Hi everyone. My name is Hui Wang from North America. Like Dr. Ji Hong mentioned in his presentation, China Energy is one of the largest carbon emitter in the world. So we're facing a massive challenge trying to decarbonize our system and the plant. Try to also maintain or deliver the required energy and benefit society in a sustainable way. So in order to solve this massive challenge, a lot of the solutions has to be part of has to be considered. So in North America, we are considering all the options that we have for our disposal. I'm going to share two part of the area that we are participating right now. One of them is carbon management. So through strategic analysis of carbon management, we can try to understand the trajectory as well as the priority for the future R&D investment. Just give you an example. Everyone knows that coal is dirty and natural gas is much cleaner. So it makes sense to, for power generation, to switch from coal to natural gas, right, to reduce carbon emission footprint. But we did a very detailed analysis that if you include the full supply chain, including like production, the fuel production, transportation, storage, as well as the final utilization for power generation, see that natural gas leaks very easily and is a more potent greenhouse gas, much higher than CO2. So actually, if you consider everything, if the natural gas is coming from a very leaky source, like Eastern Texas, no, it may be true. It may not be true that switching from coal to natural gas would give you the benefit you would expect. So that's a very interesting finding that people have to consider that given different situation, things may be different. The other part or the solution that we're working on to deal with decarbonization is part of the CCUS system is that once you capture all of this CO2, it's a waste to just to inject in the underground. That's basically wasting energy. So I think some of them can be actually be utilized and generate useful product out of it. And in the meantime, really close the loop and achieve the full like carbon security or neutrality for close the full cycle. Right. So in the meantime, it can can open a new business opportunity. It is difficult to try to convert the CO2 into something useful, comparing even more difficult to be comparable with what people are doing or industry is doing right now, because the fossil fuels route is much cheaper. So in order to generate a new opportunity, I think we just needed to have a paradigm shift. CO2 is it's not just a waste; it's also a resource for carbon, and that's the base for all of the chemicals that we use in everyday life. Whether all kinds of products you see is based on, most of them is based on fossil fuel, and it has to come from somewhere, and it's not evenly distributed throughout the world. So you have to dig them up from the ground and transport it to somewhere to be processed, and then shipped to somewhere else to be processed into the final product you use. Now, compared to that, CO2 is everywhere. And at some point, we have to think about ways to extract the CO2 from the atmosphere, because it's just out of control. Even if we achieve the carbon neutrality right now, there's still too much CO2 in the atmosphere. So we have to deal with that. So essentially, you have unlimited resource of CO carbon everywhere, wherever you're living. So this is a great opportunity for us to consider that, if we can do that, especially if you can convert the CO2 into useful product in a way that's currently different from what industry is doing. Means that currently everything is for the chemical plants, the bigger the better, the more economic, the more profitable. But for CO2 conversion, you can actually couple it with some of the emerging technologies such as electrochemical conversions that can be easily modularized. So you can actually make a smaller conversion apparatus, and CO2 can be gathered and converted locally to meet local demand. And nowadays, a lot of the basic chemicals, raw materials like CO, methanol, olefins even, can be actually converted directly from CO2 using modularized technology like electrochemical conversion. So I think with that kind of a picture in mind, it's really exciting to think of new ways to really think of CO2 as a solution, not really just the root of the problem. I think there's still a lot of technology to develop in this field, and we are really excited to be working in this field.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wang. Yeah, actually, CO2. I have heard a lot about the CO2 capture technology. Maybe that's something that related to the CO2 conversion, in order to reduce the free gas emission, right?
Right. I think the purpose of capturing is of course to gather it. So, but instead of just dumping it on the ground, I think there are better ways to utilize it. Of course, you can utilize all of the CO2 capture. The scale is just too massive to deal with, but a portion of it can be actually utilized. And compared it to an alternative approach that you dig up further, like oil or coal from somewhere else, and consume it to generate more CO2, circulating CO2 as a carbon resource. I think it makes sense.
Okay. Thank you for sharing, everyone. So our next speaker is Dr. Fang Cao. She is the Vice President of Green Energy Development Alliance and also CEO of her company. I forgot the name, so you can tell the company name.
Hello, everyone. I'm the CEO and the founder of Co2 Capture Technology development company. We are an industry service provider of industry drones, and the basic business model is sales, solution, and service. We mainly use drones, big data, artificial intelligence, and other technical fields to expand our business around power grid inspection, forest fire prevention, and natural gas pipeline inspection and other industries. We focus on 3 major business areas: product sales, solution, training, and service. Maybe we are the largest industry drone company in China. Thank you.
That's all.
That's all.
We have not
presentation.
Yeah, we have not put up your slide yet.
Oh, actually, so the doing for higher.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Wait for you.
You want to show something? Sorry.
So last one will be the very good one. Huh?
So many things.
This is our just application in the field of power grid. Compared with the manual inspection, UAV inspection has many advantages, such as the small carriage distraction, good inspection, and repeated deployment, higher inspection efficiency, and so on. We have 3 types of electrical line patrol UAV. This is our electrical wire mounted UAV. The power cable UAV system can be mounted with a projector and FPV camera. Maximum this kind of UAV maximum takeoff weight can be 20 kg. Enduring time is 35 minutes. This is unmanned helicopter for electrical power inspection and field construction. Cruising speed can be 120 kilometers per hour. This is our electrical emergency UAV. The hydrogen-powered emergency lighting UAV system not only solves the imperfect coverage of the traditional lighting, but also provides a longer range than the traditional emergency UAV lighting. This kind of UAV can max load can be 3.5 kg. Cruising speed can be 8 meters per second. Enduring time can be 3 hours no load and 2 hours 2 kg load. The last children to load UAV system. Maximum take-off weight can be 300 kg. This is our twin rotor unmanned helicopter system. The maximum takeoff weight can be 420 kg. Duration more than 1.5 hours. This is the application. And next is the application in the field of the forest fire control. The unmanned aircraft equipped with the thermal imager can monitor the temperature on the ground in real time during freezing altitude. Once a high temperature is found in certain area, it can give a real time alert. It's our 822 unmanned helicopter. We have 3, 812, 813, 814. The duration can from the 55 minutes to 70 minutes. And take-off weight can be from the 7 kg to 20 kg. It's our application. Next is application in the field of natural gas petrol inspection. Oil pipeline in deep mountain area pass through the galleries and the hills with a steep landform, so it is difficult to explore them manually. But the oil pipeline needs large scale round the clock and intelligent inspection, and also needs the forest sickness disposal. So we can have this. This is our product for the single soldier or rotor UAV. Feature is constantly feature and portable. And the multi-use 6-rotor feature is heavy load and long setting time. Vital feature is wide operating range and long setting time. This is our 3116 rotor UAV. This kind of UAV can monitor the air pollution near the pipeline. So, this application. Our customers is focus on power grid, forest, and natural gas. This is our competition and advantage. Long stay time, we can do the during time can from 1 hour to 50 hours. This is our business plan. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, very nice, actually. A lot of products, right? A lot of products, a lot of customers, a lot of applications. Very nice. Yes. Yeah, very nice. Thank you, everybody. And this is a really good opportunity to learn from everybody. Yeah, actually, I just want to echo Dr. Zhang's message on that. This time is really exciting time for our energy industry. Personally, what I'm doing as in my daylight here, I'm volunteer for the organization, and I'm a consulting engineer for the SMG company. So what I'm doing is just doing some studies for the generation developers or utility. They want to connect their energy storage, solar panels, or wind farm to the grid, right? To the kind of ISO. So right now, I've seen a lot of new type of energy. For example, even the hydrogen station, they interconnect this. They need to have the interconnection from the grid, right? They need to generate the hydrogen, and also a lot of PV right now coming with energy storage and some other independent energy storage projects. So a lot of exciting projects going on, and even in Silicon Valley, you can see a lot of startup. Dr. Maybe you are more familiar with startup. A lot of exciting areas, and I think a lot of young people here. Very, very good. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to learn from each other. Also, thank you for your time to be here. So and then to
yeah, thanks everyone in here for the round table forum. Actually, because time limitation, we just skip the question and answer for the round table. We'll go our last activities that for the Global Green Development Alliance, we have a young professional group. So we will have either come here to talk some fundraise issue. After then we will get Dr. Guan Li to talk about your activity. Yeah.
Actually, change of plan. We'll have Guan Li to present 青年部, the young professional group first, and then I'll talk about.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Maybe Guan Li.
Yes.
Yeah.
The students there. Yeah.
Hello everyone, I'm Li. I'm a volunteer for young professionals at GLGDA. Today I'm going to take this opportunity to introduce a little bit about young professionals. So it was established in July this year. At the beginning, there's only 10 people. So right now the team is bigger and stronger. All the volunteers from all the world, different countries. Because of the location issue, Today there's only 5 of us come here. Aiqi, Edward, and Yuhang, and Keji. So I would like to ask them to introduce themselves. Then probably I can go first. Yeah, my name is Li. I'm Stanford as postdoc. My major is tumor cell biology. It's totally different with the energy field. But I'm really interested in the topic about climate change. Also, I do care about it. I try to put some effort to do a little bit study. Also, this is a great opportunity to join this team and exchange the knowledge and experience. So I do appreciate. Also, I try to use my expertise to contribute a little bit to help people to build a better world, because technology is also important for sure for build a better world. So Edward, do you want to go next?
Okay. Hi, everybody. I guess for most of you, this is the first time seeing my face throughout the day. I'm part of Young Professional Group as well. I volunteered, I think, at the beginning of this year, and it's been very fun and very fruitful experience for me. I'm a student at Stanford. I'm a master's student under the Civil Environmental Engineering department. So I've been, kind of involved in space, pretty much the theme today, energy, environment, buildings, infrastructure, so on and so forth. And I want to take the opportunity to thank Dr. Zhang Xiaofeng to have me involved in this organization. And it's great to, getting to know you all and getting to know the project.
Great. And you do next?
I come here.
Hi everyone, my name is Aiki. My Chinese name is I'm Aiqi. You guys can call me like that. And I'm a student, undergrad student at UC Berkeley. And my major will be psychology. And trying to go deeper in the future, but I'm not sure which field should I go deeper into. So for now, I'm focusing on clinical psychology and intended to get a license in that for my master degree, hopefully. Thank you for everyone being here and hope to connect with you all. Thank you.
All right, it's been my honor to introduce myself to you. As an exchange student here in America, I just accomplished like 2 years in China, in Xianzhou University, which is one of the famous universities in China. And I'm here as an exchange student in UC Berkeley. Like I have 4 courses all about our something about environment and global environment and urban design, something like that, because that is my major. My major is human settlement, which is a unique major in Xianzhou University, which is like something about urban design, something like that. Yeah. So it's my great honor to be part of the global GDA young professional team, because it's I always want that maybe because of my appearance that the world can make a little difference. That is my aim of this work. Thank you.
Come here. Yeah, in the front. Yeah.
Okay, either works. It's okay.
Huh? Oh, okay.
My name is Chris Joel, and my major is environmental science. I just got here like a month ago, so I don't.
Thank you, everyone. So another thing I want to say is I just feel so great to make friends in this group. Sometimes we just call a little bit and exchange some ideas. Sometimes with this topic, sometimes with our life experience or some knowledge. I think that's great. That's great opportunity to make friends here. Yeah, thank you, everyone. The next, I'm very excited to make an announcement today. It's not that big. With the help of Xiaofeng, we established a World Young Professional Award Program. Totally, so far, there's about more than 20 people get award. But today, because of the location, there's only 5 counters. So probably today, Xiaofeng will just give the people who get the award here today, and for the rest of the part, we're going to do online. Just to thank the volunteers who did excellent work. Xiaofeng.
Okay.
Yeah, would you like?
So we will have 3 our vice president come here to give 3 of you award. Dr. Jin, Cao Fang, 还有 George。就一人，你们一人一个，好吧？OK， so 一个，你们都不要走，哎，好。So maybe let me explain a little bit. So we established the young professional group in June. So after then followed, we have a conference in the Chengdu. So they did excellent work to support. So this award we put is the volunteers for the 2021 Global Green Development Summit. And also we raised some funding. So each one got some certificate and also have 2,000 yuan as the little award. Okay, the first one is Dr. Guan Li. So George, you give the.
Thank you.
然后你要这么照相，哎，对了，你们谁来帮他照个相？哎，who take the picture？ 哎，你来帮他照，给他们一人照一个，哎，特别的光。OK， 你们2个就在这儿，哎。OK， 好。Thank you. OK, our second one is the. Edward Chen or Kai Pei Chen.
Yeah.
哎，那个谁，王晴，那你来吧。
Thank you so much.
Okay, take a picture. Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Okay, our third one is Aiqi Zhang. So for Dr. Chao, is the certificate. Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Okay. So we will follow up. 那个 Edward, you have found this announcement.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll do a short presentation.
对，他那个说完了。
Okay. I also want to let everyone know after Edward present the fundraising things, probably Edward and Aiqi also will host there's a performance part, and yeah, just for fun. Edward and Aiqi will tell everyone about the role, how to play the game, and also Yuhang probably has some special things we want to show. Hope everyone enjoy it. Thank you.
Talent show.
Yes, talent show.
Wow, talent show. Wow.
So very late.
Yes, I apologize for picking you guys so late. This is the fun part of the day, and so here's 2 options. Do you guys want to hear Yuhang sing first, or do we do this short game first? Sing or game?
Sing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I need a microphone. Yeah. 有别的麦克风吗？我要放伴奏。
放伴奏。
要什么？那个有 microphone 啊，这个 microphone 吗？
这个不行吗？
要不然我就清唱，我就唱，然后用手机放麦克风。
对，我觉得问题不大。
用手机。
我有伴奏。
那你来帮他搞啊？
不用，就放着就可以。
哦，就放到这里就好了。
不用，就放着就可以。
好厉害。
Alright, it's a song. It's an English song called "Apologize." Well, it's been some years, like in maybe 2013 or something. I think this is very beautiful, so I'm gonna sing it here. Okay, all right. Thank you. put a banana as a
네.
microphone.
네.
Moving on your road, probably 10 feet off the ground. I hear what you say, but I just can't make a sound. Tell me that you need me, then you go and cut me down. Wait. Tell me that you're sorry, then think I'll turn around and say that it's too late to apologize. It's too late. And I said it's too late to apologize. It's too late. Take another chance, take a fall, take a shot for me. I need a looking hard, need a beat, but it's not for me. Yeah, I love to read the flying red, now it's turning blue. And you say, I'm sorry like an angel, haven't let me hold you. But I'm afraid it's too late to apologize. It's too late. And I said it's too late to apologize. It's too late. A little pause.
Very good.
It's too late to apologize. It's too late. You said it's too late to apologize. It's too late. You said it's too late to apologize. Yeah. You said it's too late to apologize. Yeah. I'm holding on a rope, I'm the ground. All right. Thank you.
와,非常棒. Very good, very good.
Thank you, thank you.
That was amazing,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing, yeah.
Let's give it up for him a moment more time. That was really good. I used to be able to sing that song, but I can't anymore because I'm old. I mean, I'm older, but I guess I need to share my screen. So let's see if it works. Can do this. Okay. Yeah, I have the slides with us. Oh, I think I can just share.
Oh, you want the microphone? Or?
Yeah. Oh, it's on it. I'm on Zoom.
와, 你看这效果还可以的，这做的很好。
就用他的 computer 吧。What microphone?
No, I think this is good. Everybody can hear me, right?
Yeah.
All right, that's great. So yeah, I guess I don't need it. So this is a short game. It is something to do with our organization, GLOGDA, because we're talking about energy, we're talking about environment, and we're talking about healthcare as well. And as community members of the organization, we wanted to have this short game to help you, not only to understand more about the organization, what we do, what are our goals, and also, get more involved in the community as well. So this is a very fun game. All you need is your phone. So please take out your phone and scan this QR code. Or you can, instead of scanning it, you can go to your browser and then type kahoot.it. Either way works. Yeah, all of you guys can participate. There's no like,
What's the pin?
that's it, right? Okay, so it seems like you guys can now go into yes, it's Kahoot. Now I'll start sharing my
要放一个什么 key？
my browser.
他会给大家一
Just
个
give me 1 second. Screen. Kahoot. Okay. I think audio is on, right? Here's the game kit.
哦，
407 4539. Okay, go.
All right. Yeah, just any name works as long as we can identify.
Maybe you can nickname.
Yeah, any name works. Like a number or or your real name. So here's Jay-Z in this room. Where's Jay-Z? Jay-Z is right there. Oh, I didn't know there's Jay-Z in my room.
Please show us QR code again.
I'll go to, let me help you. We should have about 13 people logging on, so let's wait for a couple more.
Do you guys have any problems logging in?
你呢？你没看那些？
嗯，
你也来？
嗯，T7
哦
T7
哦，一房我看有30。
What's the next step?
There's 10 people. Let's wait for 2 or 3 more.
所以还有 everyone in 要不要玩？You got it.
Is anyone hasn't been able to got into the game? All good. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
没事，没进来。
5, 6, 7.
那个课题真的。
Okay, maybe someone is having trouble with it, but it's okay. Let's do it. Let's do it now. There's no limit on people. I guess I'll start the game now. Oops, someone just locked up.
We can start.
We can start now, right? Is everyone ready? So this is a short quiz. You have 30 seconds to answer the question. The questions will be in English, and this is a multiple choice question. Just click the right answer on your phone, and that's it. It's very simple. Read the question, click the right answer. All right?
Yeah, the one
Also,
who
also-
goes faster and click on answer
The
will
fastest,
be-
right?
Yep.
The fastest, the quickest you can.
The fastest, as fast as possible.
What is
It's 20 seconds, 27 seconds. So you see the countdown on the left.
getting one answer.
Yep. One answer each question.
There are no way to correct.
我这个站的话很重。
Are you guys not able to see the?
I click
好
the
像
wrong
这个
button.
音频好像是。
不是他可能是在反应，就是
太慢啊！哦，OK。
啊，我这样不对。
你看我这个
So the right answer is
No.
global green development.
No, that's blue one.
And 8 people got it right.
So yeah, 8 people got it right. So you know the hang of the game right now.
Oh, H2.
Yes. So you click the answer, and if you're right, you can see you click the right answer on your phone. The right name of our organization is Global Green Development Alliance, and 8 people got it right. So 1 people answered this, and 2 people answered this. So that's how the game works.
Okay.
So it'll get faster in one of the later questions.
Just
So
warm
maybe
up.
we'll get like 20 seconds because now we have like 30 seconds.
Okay.
Yep, this is the warm up.
Yeah.
So first place, ha ha ha. Who is ha ha
Here.
ha? And Xiaofeng is on second place, so you'll see the ranking after each question. So we'll see who's going to be at the top, like at the end of the game. There's 16 questions. This is the second one. This is a right or wrong answer, true or false.
don't see any text. Oh, wow.
哇，这拼网速啊，这是。
它好像就是速度是说，我是用的我这个
我也
WiFi，现在我什么问题？
没什么。
而且它就
我说
在。
感觉。
哦。
我说什么？
It's a false because
I got it right.
nice. George got it right. That's great. So our organization is registered 501c3, not C7. That's a very subtle question. So C7 is not educational or scientific research nonprofit, but we're educational and not scientific research.
Oh, this is 7, Windows 3.
Ji Hongchen got the first place. There you go. So yeah, it keeps changing. It's equal.
7，我以为是3创。
Which of the following is not part of Glogda's current focus? 我也不知道，我看一下。这你猜这个吧？
我点了呀。
要这个 animal 这个吧？肯定是了。我这个也。
So all of you got it right. That's great.
我没注意它是。
Awesome, guys.
7.
We would love to work on animal rights, but this is not our work.
So when anyone get the right answer, but the one who click on it the fastest, like they got the first place.
Yeah.
So try your best to click on it as fast as possible.
Okay.
You have 30 seconds for this question.
Korean webinar series name. 健康世界绿色方向。
That's a very tricky question.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's healthy world green development.
这个绿的。
健康世界绿色方向。
这写名号，
Yeah, nice. Okay, George.
我今天看了第6天看后头。
George and Tom. Okay.
Oh wow. So George.
我决定换上。
It's a true or false question.
2021.
We just talked about it 3 minutes ago. I guess not. That's not fair for everybody. So let's take a guess. Is it true? We got it established earlier this year.
And move that.
Always in 5th place.
What's that? Which?
It's
which city is yeah, the event held in? Sorry. Yep, it's in Chengdu, as our president Zhang Xiaofeng mentioned earlier today. Oh,
very competitive.
Yeah, very competitive. You're on fire. George, that's fire. So for those of you who've been involved last year, you should know this question. But it's a Christmas special. It's a tiny game. It's a special webinar. So it's very special.
你得重新进了，你这输了。可以再哦，不行，那是扣屏。
Just one people got it right.
Oh, who got
Who
it
got it
right?
right? Who is the lucky guy?
应该是这个 one。
是Jane 说过的。
Yeah,
George.
I'm far ahead.
We're just winning. It's only half the game yet. We're not even half.
Yeah.
Okay.
How much greenhouse gas does the world emit every day, every year?
Every year. Just take a good guess.
Yeah, take a rough guess. It's 50 billion.
Okay.
Oh, it's actually kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent. Oh, George is still going. George is on fire. Which country has the largest installed capacity of renewables? This one should be easy. As of today, I'm not sure about 10 years later.
Wow.
But China currently has the largest installed capacity of renewables, as well as generation of clean electricity. All this 4 plates both move one spot. What percentage of electricity in the US comes from renewables?
Okay.
20%. The exact number is 19.8%, so close to 20%. Oh, still competitive game. California has 100% clean energy access to target of zero carbon electricity by what year? Yeah, prefer to move closer to the screen. It's 2045.
Oh.
It's changing. Selwyn's at 3rd place now. True or false? This is an environment question. Question about the nature, question about trees. It's true. We have a lot of tree species at risk of extinction. Something to think about for global climate change. Basically saying which of these options causes the most number of deaths every year. Nice. I expect more people would maybe choose cigarette smoking, because cigarette smoking killed about the same amount of people as air pollution, but air pollution is a little bit higher. So we'll see, it's very important to think about air pollution as well as, just not only just climate change, but also how, our living environment is going on. Ji Hongchen. This is a question about health.
Right.
I forgot.
10 million people.
Oh, it's okay.
A lot of people die from cancer every year.
That's not that.
George in 3rd place. Which of the following states, I should say state, sorry, this should be a singular, has the highest COVID-19 vaccine rate? Tricky one. It's New York State. New York has 70% vaccine rate. California has 63 or 64. So a little bit. Oh, you're going up. Oh, you're going up. This is the last question. In most states, COVID-19 vaccine rate is higher for women than men. True or false? That's true. That's right, ladies. You're doing great. Third place, who's ha ha ha. Second place, Paul.
Number one. Who is number one?
Ji
Great job.
Okay, good.
That's it.
Okay.
Looks like Ji Hong knows everything about not also healthcare. Very interdisciplinary.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so let's go back to the slides. I just one last thing to announce today. This is pretty much close to the end of the day. Let me share this thing again. So we've been hosting this event for free. Food is provided for free and everything's provided for free. And we're so happy to see all of you coming here. It's been a great time, meeting each other and then getting connected, getting to know everything you've done in the energy and renewables and climate space. And we love to keep this going. We want to host more awesome events like this and more activities going on in the future. So we would love to have your support. Any kind of contributions would be great. So here's a QR code. So if you take a moment to scan a QR code and even just $10, $20, $50, that would be very appreciated. And if there's any questions about how you can contribute, how you want to donate, feel free to ask me. Feel free to reach out to any people in the young professional group or in your organization. We'll be happy to help. And yeah. Thanks again for being here. This is not mandatory. We're not like keeping you here. We got to take your money or whatever. This is a free event, but we would love to have hearing from you, your feedback, and having your support. So I guess that's the end of the day. And thank you so much for being here.
Cash reward for coming in second.
Or maybe I guess so. We'll think about it. Next time, I'll buy you a beer or something, maybe.
Okay, thank you, Yang Yang. Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
很好，很好，你们那个